Hey everyone, it's Freya, host of the Sharing English podcast, and welcome back to U.S. Government Explained, the mini-series that explores how the American system of government works, both at home and around the world. In our last episode, we talked about the U.S. military and national security. Today, we're zooming out and looking at a different way the United States interacts with the world, not through force, but through cooperation. Today's episode is all about international organizations, what they are, why the U.S. helped create some of them, why it joins some but not others, and how those choices affect life inside the United States. For much of its early history, the United States avoided permanent international commitments. In the 18th and 19th centuries, American leaders were cautious about foreign alliances. They worried that international agreements could drag the young country into conflicts it didn't choose. That approach changed dramatically in the 20th century. 2 world wars, the rise of global trade, and advances in technology showed that problems in one part of the world could quickly affect everyone else. By the end of World War II, U.S. leaders believed that cooperation between countries was necessary for stability and peace. This shift led the United States to help create many of the international organizations that still exist today. What are international organizations? Well, international organizations are groups of countries that work together to address shared problems. They are not world governments, they do not replace national governments, and they usually cannot force countries to act. Instead, they provide rules, coordination, and shared goals. These organizations focus on areas like security, trade, health, law, and humanitarian aid. The U.S. participates in international organizations for several reasons. First, national security. Working with allies can prevent conflicts and reduce the risk of war. Second, economic interests. Trade rules and financial cooperation help stabilize markets and protect U.S. businesses. And third, influence. Being inside these organizations allows the U.S. to help shape global rules instead of reacting to them later. Importantly, U.S. leaders usually view participation as a way to protect American interests, not give them up. The United Nations is one of the clearest examples of American leadership in international organizations. After World War II, the U.S. played a major role in designing the UN with the goal of preventing another global war. Today, the U.S. is a founding member, one of the largest financial contributors, and a permanent member of the UN Security Council. Through the UN, the U.S. engages in diplomacy, humanitarian aid, peacekeeping discussions, and international coordination. At the same time, U.S. involvement in the UN is often debated at home, especially around cost, effectiveness, and national sovereignty. There's also NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, another organization the United States helped create. Formed after World War II, NATO is a military alliance based on collective defense. An attack on one member is treated as an attack on all. For the United States, NATO extends security partnerships, shares defense responsibilities, and shapes military cooperation abroad. NATO also explains why U.S. military decisions are often tied to alliance commitments rather than acting alone. Another example, the World Health Organization, or WHO, focuses on global public health issues such as disease monitoring, vaccination efforts, and emergency response. The U.S. helped shape the global health system after World War II and has long played a major role in international health cooperation. However, as of recently, the United States has withdrawn from the WHO at the federal level. This does not mean all cooperation has ended. Some individual U.S. states, like California, and institutions are working to maintain or rebuild connections with global health networks. This situation highlights an important point. U.S. involvement in international organizations can change depending on political leadership and policy priorities. International organizations may seem distant, especially to many Americans, but their decisions often affect daily life. Trade organizations influence prices and jobs. Health organizations shape responses to global diseases and influence internal health policies. Security alliances affect defense spending and military deployments. Even when Americans are not thinking about these organizations, their impact is often present in the background. Now, the U.S. is not a part of every international organization. A key reason the U.S. does not join every international organization is sovereignty. Sovereignty means the ability of a country to govern itself, make its own laws, and control its legal system. U.S. leaders are especially cautious about agreements that could override American courts or the Constitution. The United States is not a member of the International Criminal Court, or ICC. The ICC prosecutes individuals for serious crimes such as genocide and war crimes. The U.S. has supported accountability for these crimes, but has chosen not to join the ICC because of concerns that U.S. soldiers or officials could be tried outside U.S. courts, or that international judges could override American legal protections. This choice reflects a long-standing preference to keep criminal jurisdiction within the U.S. legal system. Additionally, in the U.S., international commitments usually involve multiple branches of government. The executive branch negotiates agreements, but the Senate must approve treaties to join these international organizations, and Congress controls funding to them. This structure makes international participation both deliberate and often slow, but also closely tied to constitutional checks and balances. U.S. involvement in international organizations is constantly debated. Some argue that cooperation strengthens global stability. Others worry about cost, effectiveness, or loss of control. Looking ahead, issues like climate change, pandemics, cyber threats, and global competition raise important questions about how involved the U.S. should be. These decisions will shape not only foreign policy, but life inside the U.S. as well. International organizations are one of the main ways the U.S. engages with the world without using force. Understanding where the U.S. participates and where it chooses not to helps explain modern American foreign policy, national priorities, and global influence. Next time, we'll continue this conversation by looking more closely at how U.S. foreign policy decisions are made and debated. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Is your country part of many international organizations? Are there any it refuses to join? Let me know. Thank you for joining me on this episode of U.S. Government Explained. You can find out more about us and the podcast at www.sharing-english.com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow, share, and leave a review. And be sure to check out the culture-focused episodes of the Sharing English podcast released every Thursday. Bye!